A drama more than an hour of waiting, with cars parked on the grid and drivers impatient in the pouring rain. But the real storm wasn't just what fell from the Belgian sky. It was also the barrage of criticism that followed. Max Verstappen didn't mince words. In an explosive tone, the three-time world champion called the delay excessive and said that Formula One is losing its essence. And he wasn't the only one. Lewis Hamilton also didn't hide his frustration and accused the FIA of reacting out of excessive fear. In today's video, you'll learn all the behind-the-scenes details of this enormous controversy, so stay until the end, like, and subscribe to the channel. July 27th, 2025. The stopwatch marks 3 p.m. local time. The cars are lined up on the grid, and a torrential rain begins to fall on the track. As soon as the drivers begin to form, everything changes. The safety car comes out to determine the lineup, but drivers like Lando Norris quickly report zero visibility, contracting spray, and a clearly present danger. In a matter of seconds, the race management makes a drastic decision. Red flags displayed during the formation lap, and all cars return to pit lane. The TV shows the engines shutting down, the mechanics suspending the grid, and the fans watching without knowing when the race would actually start. And then the nightmare of waiting begins. They were 1 hour and 20 minutes of total disruption. The organizers worked to remove puddles of water. The marshals used machines to clear the track, and the weather forecast oscillated between hope and new downpours at any moment. Meanwhile, inside the cockpit and on the radio lines, tension was rising. The race ended up starting only at 16:20, with 4 laps behind the safety car, before finally allowing a rolling start. No fixed grid. The decision was controversial, especially since the rain had already eased and the winds helped disperse the spray. Cars returned to the track, but the final race only began on the way back 5. Throughout this period, drivers like Norris and others were drawing attention to the main problem. It wasn't so much the water level on the track, but the reduced visibility, especially for those behind the leader of the grid or with spray rising from the car in front. Norris even said, "I can barely see behind the safety car. I can only imagine what the others are going through." On the other hand, commentators like Nico Rosberg reinforced the real danger of the situation, describing the conditions as horrendous, where it was impossible for a driver to maintain reliable visual reference at high speeds. This delay wasn't just another cloud in the Spa sky. It directly impacted the race's structure. Expectations of an on-time start turned tense. Team strategies changed instantly, and the wet weather turned into a calculatedly cold wait. This was the atmosphere that preceded the most controversial start of the season, where names like Verstappen and Hamilton would later voice scathing criticism, while others advocated caution. Max Verstappen, three-time world champion and master of racing in the rain, did not hold back in his criticism of the FIA after the 1 hour and 20-minute delay to the start. The decision to restart the race in near-dry conditions backfired for Red Bull, which had made a conscious decision to increase downforce in anticipation of a rainy race. This meant Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda were unable to overtake the cars in front, as they lacked top speed on the run-up to Turn 5. After being stuck behind Ferrari's Charles Leclerc for 39 laps, when he finished 4th, Verstappen was deeply frustrated by what he felt was his team being penalized for preparing for wet track conditions. "We made a choice with the setup and they only allowed us to drive in almost slippery conditions, so it was a bit disappointing," he said, feeling that race control overcompensated after releasing the cars too early during a rainy British Grand Prix, which led to Isaac Hadjar colliding with Andrea Kimi Antonelli at Copse Corner in heavy fog. Yes, the race should have started earlier, an hour earlier. It was a shame. Of course they had a very cautious approach. Of course we talked after Silverstone to be a bit more cautious with the decisions, but this was the other extreme for me, said the reigning champion. It was a choice we made with the car setup, which was the wrong one, of course, because they wouldn't let us run in the wet. When we got the dry tires, we were very slow on the straight. And with the general balance issues I already had with this car, it made it a little bit worse. As a wet track specialist, Verstappen felt the track was close to being ready at the original start time and criticized drivers who asked race control to delay the start. Between turns 1 and 5 there was a bit of water, but if you did 2 laps behind the safety car, the track would be much cleaner, and the rest of the track was ready for the start. The more you run, the better it will be. And if you can't see it, you can always lift off the gas. At some point you'll see. So it's better to say, you know what, let's wait until it's completely dry and then we'll start on the slicks. Because for me, this is not a wet race. At the end of the day, they do what they want, right? But I think it's a shame for everyone. You'll never see these classic wet races again, said Max Verstappen. Logically, he expressed frustration for having prepared the race for a wet race, for realizing that the track was already raceable, and, above all, for believing that the delay had been unjustified, penalizing the team's strategy. Lewis Hamilton, who finished 7th, agreed with Verstappen's thinking that the race should have started in the rain. But before I continue, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so that the YouTube algorithm recommends this video, and let's go. My car was set up for that, so I waited for it, the safety car, to come out. Regarding the restart, an hour later, he stated that it could have been under traditional conditions, with a standing start. Yes, it definitely could have been a standing start. Especially at the end, because it was almost a dry line. There was almost no spray. So, they definitely could have done that. However, the 7-time champion understands that the delay was due to the rain at Silverstone, which was also marked by torrential rain, but which kept the action on the track. I think it was just a reaction to Silverstone. I think Silverstone was a success. And that just happens. I think we sat down and talked about it, and most of the drivers said that in the last race, we shouldn't have started. So, I think they just focused on visibility. Someone ahead said the visibility was pretty bad, which wasn't great, but it wasn't as bad as the last race. And I think they just waited, just to be sure. I think they did a good job anyway. Of course we lost some of the extremely wet races, which would have been good. But for some reason the spray here is really, or at least this year, like driving through fog. I don't know what we're going to do to try and fix that, Hamilton said. Race controls exercise of caution on a high-speed track where Formula Regional driver Delano Ventiehoff was killed 2 years ago after being hit by another car in heavy rain, was appreciated by other drivers, who disagreed with Verstappen's view. Gabriel Bortolito, who finished 9th, agreed with race directors. No, safety always comes first, and I think when we first went out there was so much spray and so much aquaplaning that if we ran in those conditions someone could have gotten hurt. I love racing in any conditions, but when it's not good, and we have to be realistic about that. I really think we started at the right time today, and the FIA did a very good job with that. Sainz, said the Brazilian pilot. On a normal track, yes, I think we could have started 5 to 10 minutes earlier, said Williams' Carlos Sainz. At Spa-Francorchamps, and with the track's history, it's better to be safe than to have an accident and regret it. You were able to watch the whole race, so I don't think it was a bad decision. It was a safe decision, but I respect the race director, Rui Marquez, because he told us after the accidents at Silverstone that it would be safer here, and that's what he did. Pierre Gasly lost his close friend Antoine Hubert in an F2 accident at Spa 6 years ago. The accident occurred in dry conditions, but tragically exposed the lack of visibility at the top of the Rydillen climb, even in perfect conditions. The Alpine driver, who finished 10th in the standings, also respected the race control decision. When we started the first lap, we couldn't see anything, so it was the right decision to red flag it, he said. Then there was a big cloud coming in. Was there a 5-minute window? Potentially, but I think they made the right call. It's always the same question. Could you restart the race 10 minutes earlier or later? I think, at the end of the day, knowing the history of this track and what happens as a driver, you'd rather be 10 minutes late than 10 minutes early. But tell me, what did you think of this video? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your opinion, and be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything.